Really a cowboy, Colorado cowboy. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to just debrief what happened. If you found difficulties, if you found discoveries that you didn't know would be there, challenges, things that were interesting that you'd like to share with the group, this is a good time to share your experience. And
I found that the last part of the process itself, even when we were walking through it the first time, I think that was the most powerful for me.
the sacred place space.
Yeah, at first I didn't know what was sacred, and then I said, well, honoring yourself is sacred. You know, and poof, right away.
Honoring
That was
yourself
very
is sacred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have a sense of, well, what do I really have as sacred?
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, I find that whenever we explore that space, a lot of people, it's unconscious to them what they hold in that kind of a space. And it's a rich space. It's a rich resource when you really take the time to explore what you hold sacred inside yourself. And it can be a tremendous resource in so many areas of your life where you don't bring it because you're not aware of it. And I think that's true with a lot of NLP, is that a lot of NLP is about accessing resources from different places in our lives and applying them in areas that we never thought to. And I think if we did that a lot more in our lives, we'd be a lot more resourceful in more and more contexts. It's just that for some reason it doesn't translate in our minds. We don't think that we can use a resource from my athletic world, that I can use that in business, or I can use that in therapy, or I can use that in whatever context we live in. A state of curiosity is a state of curiosity, no matter what the content. A state of confidence is a state of confidence, no matter what the context. A state of holding something sacred is a state that lives within us and can be utilized in other places. I think that's an important distinction to make. Yeah.
Counter to that is the museum.
The museum, yes.
If you take your old belief that has been with you for many, many years.
So you may have a belief that's very old.
Old, and you just honor it and keep it there in a whatever place you choose. It's not a trash bin that you just dump it. No, because it's
So Anwar,
like taking part of yourself, your part of your history, and
Yeah.
you honor it, and you just leave it there. I might need it.
yeah. So Anwar's saying that the museum can be a very respectful place, a place of holding a belief that has served you in the past at some point, and that you're now releasing, but not throwing in the trash. You are honoring it by putting it somewhere where you can revisit it if you want, but you're storing it in a place that may also be sacred to you in some way.
Yeah, and that's why they use the museum.
The museum.
All the good things that you have. That is not
It's a nice
something
metaphor,
you
isn't it?
But it is there, you honor it.
A museum holds many wonderful old things,
All things are important in their time.
important in their time, and
Maybe
that we love to look at, and we love to learn about. Yes. Yes, our history is a great resource to us, and it's important not to cut it off. It's important to utilize time, our past and our future, so that our present can become more rich. And so I think that's a really nice metaphor for that, honoring that space. Other comments about the process? It's a very simple process, isn't it? It's pretty straightforward. Once you understand the structure.
we used it with Robert did, we used it in business.
Used it in business. Sure.
It's also very powerful.
Any of these techniques can be used with anyone. The main thing is getting permission, right? And that's why conversational is a little easier, because more people are comfortable conversing than they are with moving like this. But if you get their permission, if you get enough rapport with them, they'll do this. You know, I've seen a lot of people over the years that are used to traditional therapy where they sit and chat. They talk about things, and maybe some change happens as a result of that because they're exploring their experience, and that often helps us to change. And then they come and see me, and suddenly they're standing up and they're doing this kind of thing. It's very different. So I have to really make sure that I get their permission. In a coaching session, in a therapeutic setting, even in a business setting. You know, it's like, let's say we're working as a team and we have an organizational belief. Maybe we all need to get up and walk through this. Change a belief that's holding back our company as a whole. You know? So it does require some boldness sometimes, some willingness to stretch yourself, to introduce something to somebody and say, let's try this and see what happens. Let's explore it.
And I found when I was being guided through, it was very useful to have Ron reframe, just remind me that I had the courage to do certain things.
Remind you about courage.
Yes, I thought that was really useful in this
Yeah.
context of doing something different that might feel uncomfortable.
There's so many of those natural, intuitive things that once we've got the skills, we can bring those in a respectful way. Yeah. Anwar was saying on break that she could see how this could be done easily conversationally. So if you begin to think now that you've done it this way, you begin to think, how could I do it conversationally? It's really just about asking people questions about these spaces, isn't it? Yeah. Doesn't seem hard anymore, does it? Now that you understand how it works.
It happened with me when I first learned the score. I had to break them up and leave them with through all the stages. And I said one day, I can do it, just talking to them.
You can do it just talking, yeah.
And since then, like in the last 2 years, I do,
Yeah. Some of you are familiar with the score, where S stands for symptom, and you ask the person about their present state. What's the symptom that's going on? And then you could ask them, if you stepped back in time and began to imagine what created that symptom, how did you get there? That's the cause, right? And then you can ask them, well, what do you want instead? That's the outcome. With children, sure. Anything that you're learning here is adaptable. Just requires your creativity, your willingness to explore, to play with it. Anything else? Okay, you ready to put this one in the museum? You can bring it out. You can bring it out and use it. Okay, so this afternoon we're going to do re-imprinting, which is another example of a belief change, just in a little different format and with a little different focus. And I'll tell you a little bit about the form of that when we come back, so that you can see kind of the beliefs that fit into that form, that makes sense to do re-imprinting with versus one of these other patterns. And then hopefully we'll get to a conversational example as well. So we'll talk about that. I also want to mention that when I think Tamara's coming in tomorrow, teaching language patterns, sleight of mouth, those kinds of skills, those will enhance your ability to do a lot of techniques conversationally. So the most important thing during those 3 days is to feel fluid and just to go for it. Even if the language doesn't come simply to you, just to keep going for it. Keep trying the pattern over and over and over again, because the more you try it, the more it drops into your experience, and the more it'll begin to come out naturally for you. So, did you have some announcements?
Yep.
Okay.
Just one thing.